Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 100 Horror Films You've Got to Check Out. This week, we're going over an absolute classic that I have heard of, obviously, because I've been alive for at least 27 years. But I don't think I've ever watched all the way through. So I was really excited to sit down and really take this in. And I have a lot of comments on this. I do want to apologize in advance if this does not make it out before 6 o'clock, even though it is like 10:30 now as I'm starting to record. It has been a crazy, hectic week that has kind of gotten caught up to me, but all for good reasons. My summer schedule doing balloons is now back up to 5 days and 6 different locations. Not quite what it was before Corona, but definitely getting back into the swing of things, so I'm very happy about that. And trying to balance work and having a social life and putting out these videos. I forgot to come home Tuesday night because I was out having a blast with a bunch of friends, and I have an appointment today to go get my nails done so I look super pretty. So I'm definitely a giant ball of hectic, and there's like a 90% chance I'm not wearing pants right now, but luckily you can only see from here up, so I should be good. Unless, of course, Tony comes home while I'm filming this, and then I will have a lot of explaining to do. But I digress. Let's jump into this week's movie, which is the 1963 American natural horror thriller. Based off of the 1952 short story by the same name by Daphne du Maurier, if I said that right, and I probably didn't. But this is Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. Starring Tippi Hedren as Melanie Daniels, Rod Taylor as Mitch Brenner, and Jessica Tandy as Lydia Brenner, who I remember from Batteries Not Included, which now I want to watch. That was a pretty long intro, but I felt that it was important to get all of that information out to you. The one word out of all of that that really stood out and caught my attention was the natural horror thriller. I think that is the first time I have come across the word natural in a description of a horror movie being a natural horror movie, and I'm on the fence of trying to figure out if I find that more scary or funnier to be labeled natural horror, on account of it using birds, which are obviously, well, depending who you ask, a natural thing. For the people in the know, there are no birds, they're just drones. Disclaimer, I am not one of those people. I am like 95% sure birds are real. But I don't know if the idea of all of them staging a militarized attack on people should be considered natural, because I don't like the sound of that at all. One thing that I noticed as I was watching this movie is the aggressive birds, which are obviously the selling point of this movie, do not come in to about halfway, and they don't have a whole lot of scenes, but when they are on screen, they are a force to be reckoned with, absolutely. So this story takes place in the early 1960s in San Francisco, where we meet socialite Melanie Daniels. She is at a local pet store trying to pick up her newly acquired birds when she meets lawyer Mitch Brenner, who is looking to buy lovebirds for his sister Kathy's 11th birthday. Mitch knows Melanie from a court situation that she was in for a practical joke that went awry. So when he sees her at the counter of this bird store, he pretends that he thinks she is an employee, and she goes along with it for some reason, and was somewhat convincing to the point where I thought she worked at the shop as well, except that she knows nothing about the birds in the shop. So she's trying to help him as he's quizzing her on the birds in the cages, and he's coming across somebody who is anti-birds as pets. So this whole first scene, I am scratching my head and trying to figure out who is who, what's going on, and why I feel so lost already. Which I don't think was Alfred Hitchcock's intentions. I think it might have been that I was just so punch drunk from the past couple of days However, it did motivate me to sit up and pay attention to the movie way more intently than I maybe had originally planned. Now, of course, these two young, attractive, single people flirting by lying about who they are in a bird store makes for a great love story. I can't even say that with a straight face. And that is probably going to be the smallest issue I have with the rest of their relationship that develops through this movie. So that's going to tell you a little bit about what happens between those two. After Mitch leaves the shop without buying any lovebirds, because they aren't there, Melanie runs outside to copy down his license plate. She then, in the most successful stalker way, she calls her father and uses his connections as the owner of a newspaper to run the license plate numbers of Mitch to find out who he is and where he lives. She then orders 2 lovebirds to give to him. She shows up at his house to drop off these birds when she finds out that he is out of town for the weekend because he went to visit his family in Bodega Bay, which is about an hour and a half to 2 hours away. So she hops in her car and drives down the coast, or up the coast, I don't know where they are in relation to each other, to give this man lovebirds. If we were to gender swap these roles, that guy would be locked up so quickly. And that's before you find out what she does when she gets there. Okay. I just realized how much of this review is going to be me picking apart their relationship and how little of it is going to be about birds. But I don't care. It's my channel. I'll do what I want. So, this is so bonkers. She gets to town and asks the general store manager how to get to the Brenner's house. She also asks if the manager knows the 11-year-old girl's name. He thinks it's Alice, but isn't sure. So gives her directions to the school teacher's house to ask the school teacher. Why? Was that natural? Was that a normal thing to happen in the 1960s? Again, imagine if a guy walked into a store and said, "Hey, do you by any chance know the name of the 11-year-old girl that lives in the house over there? Or where I can find out more information about her?" That dude would be in cuffs so quick. Right? And then it gets better. The general store manager says, "Oh, if you follow this road around, it'll bring you right up to their front door." And she goes, "Oh, is there a way I could get there where nobody would see me? I want to surprise them." Man, that sounds so shady. And instead of being like, "Excuse me, miss, you say you're here to visit friends, but you don't know the girl's name, and you don't know how to get to their house, and you don't want to be seen going to their house. I think something iffy might be in the works here," he says, "Well, you could rent a boat and go across the bay and they won't see you coming." And that's exactly what she does. I like to think that I am not one to talk during a movie or talk at a movie, but this entire sequence of scenes, I am very loudly to myself, to an empty house, exclaiming like, what is she doing? What's going on? Because when she is getting closer to the house and sees people on the shore, she cuts the motor of the boat so that nobody can hear her coming, and she paddles up to the dock, sneaks up to the house with this cage with 2 lovebirds in it, and breaks into dude's house to leave this cage of birds and a note. What? That's not normal. That's not okay. I think Melanie is way more terrifying than the birds that are going to kill people later on in this movie, because she has a blatant disregard for the law and people's property and privacy, and she only gets away with it because she is a beautiful woman. So I think the takeaway at the end of this movie is that you should be afraid of birds in large groups and beautiful women. I have the strangest feeling that that sentence is going to come back to bite me in the butt at some point. As she is paddling away, Mitch heads into the house, sees the birds, runs out, sees Melanie in the boat, hops in his car, and races around the bay to meet her at the dock. And this is the first time we witness an unsolicited bird attack. I'm sorry, I say that like there are solicited bird attacks. I assure you, I don't think there are a whole lot of people asking to be attacked by birds. But who am I to kink shame? You do you, boo-boo. As Melanie is pulling up to the dock, a seagull dives down and just ricochets off her skull. Because it's only one bird and it's just one attack, it doesn't appear to bring too much attention to the scenario itself. It just kind of seems like a freak happenstance. But now Melanie has become the damsel in distress, and Mitch is there to save her and bandage her back up, so the love story thickens. Mitch invites Melanie to Kathy's birthday party the following day. She accepts. There is a bird attack. Now a lot more witnesses, it's a lot more brutal, a lot more birds. It kind of catches a little bit of attention. Later that night, Melanie and Mitch are hanging out with Mitch's mom, Lydia, and sister, Kathy, when a huge flock of sparrows flies into the house through the chimney, making a spectacle of an attack. My favorite part about this is that when everything is said and done, Mitch calls the cops, and as the sheriff is there getting the report, Mitch is very upset that not more is being done. Like, he wants the birds arrested or given a ticket, or like it was a bunch of rowdy kids that tipped over trash cans or something. He wants justice from the birds that flew into his house. Obviously, this guy is not playing with a full deck of cards, because he also is falling for the girl that broke into his house to give his sister birds. There are some sentences I say that after I hear them out loud, it occurs to me those sentences have probably never been said. And he is falling for the woman that broke into his house to give his sister birds is definitely on that list. Melanie goes to the local school to see her teacher friend, who, don't even get me into the lie she told Mitch about that. Go watch the movie and see that for yourself. When there is another bird attack, and these birds gather and viciously attack the children. Not the children! Yes, the children! And I felt really bad for laughing at this part. As the kids are running away from the school, and the birds are like dive bombing, and there's some interesting green screening effects happening that were, I guess, just par for the course at the time. None of the kids are really getting hurt. They're just kind of being hassled by it. And I remember thinking, like, oh, okay, I guess you weren't able to show kids being hurt on film at that time. And as soon as I thought that, this poor little ginger kid gets the business. Of all of the kids, leave the gingers alone. Please, leave them alone. So now Mitch and Melanie go to the local diner, and Melanie has called her dad to hopefully get some sort of publicity on the events to get help, because they don't understand what's going on, when we encounter another bird attack. So we go from not having any birds in the movie for like a good hour to just bird attack, bird attack, bird attack, bird attack. Melanie and Mitch go back to Mitch's place. They board up the windows and they seek shelter with Lydia and Kathy to try to wait out the birds. Melanie gets quite injured by these birds, which I have to admit, I don't think I really saw coming. But to be honest, I didn't see the ending of this movie coming at all. So Melanie has been attacked by these birds. Mitch bandages her up and decides that she needs to get to the hospital for help. The four of them make their way to Melanie's car, and outside is covered with birds. The trees, the garage, the house, the yard, the porch. There's just birds everywhere. And the ending scene is the four of them driving off. But there is no resolution, there is no explanation, there is no nothing. We're just exposed to these 2 or 3 days out of the lives of these people where some horrendous acts of birds happen. And then the end. That's just it. There's nothing more to it. I definitely thought there was going to be some sort of conclusion or explanation or something about it. But nothing. And with as abruptly as that movie ends, let's abruptly end this review and get to the scratching. And here is the scratching off of the birds. Is that the same image? What a cop-out. Look at the imagination on this scratch off. The birds. So that was the scratching off of The Birds from 1963. I want to take this moment to thank everybody for checking out this review and spending a few minutes of your day with me. It means a lot. Very big I love you, thank you to my Patreon subscribers whose names are going to pop up in just a minute. Still trying to get to 20 subscribers so we can do the giveaway of the Everyone is Awesome Lego set. So if you guys are enjoying these reviews and you want to check out the Extra Mind Monday review on Patreon, or even just show some support and get some behind the scenes information, I'll put the link down in the description below. Come back next week where we will be checking out The Haunting. So that being said, I'll catch you next Thursday. Later days.